software that we use is the software that we built, the configuration tool and the dashboard are both UWP software programs. They were built using Microsoft UWP, which stands for Universal Windows Platform, and those are also inherently safe. They tell you anytime that software is going to use an elevated privilege, it actually gives you a message on screen. So again, these are things that should, if they're going to be looking at it from a security point of view, should make them feel okay about it. I think the biggest draw with a municipality is going to be that it's a one-time purchase, so that they're using a capital fund to put these devices out on their network, and then there's no recurring monitoring fees or anything like that for licensing fees for having units running, because every other IT platform that's for sale is licensed by year, by device, and at times by the level of depth you want on each network. And a lot of these networks, we know the IT department doesn't feel it's worth it. They don't want to be spending their operational budgets on some of these networks. We give them a nice way of putting security and monitoring into a network without having to touch their operational cash.
And how about explain to them how the getting SMS text out in an air gap situation might work?
Oh, yeah, that was the other thing from Novatech that was interesting. There's a number of the major alarm panel manufacturers support scripting of virtual alarms. So if an alarm occurs on your Bosch panel, you can do all these different things with that alarm. And one of them is you can send an outbound SMS message through the Bosch service. So what we were looking at adding into both the 100 and the 200 is an alarm scripting package, so that if you have, a Bosch or one of the other large system alarm panels, that we can script alerts to send to that alarm panel. So that alarm panel then manages the outbound communication. So it can go to the alarm, to the end of the alarm system. It can go to the alarm events, go via SMS, and do all those other things. So really, it's us piggybacking on a platform that's already accepted and in use in a lot of air-gapped environments.
Very cool.
Good. Perfect.
Yeah. So,
I'm just totally thinking outside the box. So, say someone like a Sonatrol, they got monitoring stations. I know that's visual, it's audio. Do they do something like this through the monitoring stations, or is that handled directly by the integrator? You know what I'm saying? I guess I'm just wondering.
I don't know about Sonatrol. There are companies that are trying to sell this into the security business. Defendify is one I've seen bits and pieces of. So far, everyone I've looked at uses the IT model, which is, first off, what they're doing is the installation is nasty, because what you're doing is installing software agents on all of your servers. And the software agents monitor a bunch of different things, but they're not actually listening to the network. They're just monitoring a protocol on the network that would tell them stuff. Also, installing software agents is a pain in the ass. So that's the first thing, is that installation requires an IT person. The second thing is that they're also licensing by device on the network and by year. So automatically you're into that whole IT business model, which we're trying to stay out of. We're trying to stay in the security business model, which is, I bought it, I installed it, it works, and that's it. Sorry, I don't think I answered your question. I think I kind of started to, and then I went off.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to see, is there any play?
I think we started off with the idea of this being like a burglar alarm and reporting, possibly having it report to Central Station.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Right?
Is there a market for that?
So the quick answer to that is, if we're scripting to alarm panels,
right,
then that
not?
will 100% be an instant, simple way to do that. We also did build, and it was really funny, we actually built a receiver product for this. Never did the head end for the receiver. All we did was the core software for it. But what it meant is as well as sending outbound email packets, we could send basically alarm information to the receiver, and the receiver would basically end up being a backup of everything that's in the EdgeSentry machine. And each EdgeSentry machine could actually send backup packets to multiple receivers, so you could have a few different receivers. We never finished it, but it's built into the EdgeSentry, and we have it kind of there. This is also the answer to that question that, Jeff, you keep getting about what happens if your system, will anybody know if your system goes offline? Well, the receiver would be the answer for that, because the receiver would be looking for like a pull from the system every 30 seconds or so. If it didn't see it, then it could tell you that the system was offline.
How many years of programming time will that take?
That's potentially out there. The receiver has been bumped down on our priority list for a while, to the point that right now I think it's in the 2025 development.
Okay.
But it's, I think it emerges when the municipality with 200 boxes comes up and says, how do we centralize this?
Yeah, it certainly does. And
so if I can get a PO for 250 boxes, can we?
Gets bumped up.
We have too many good ideas that we're working on right now, which is actually a bit of a challenge.
Yep.
Just to kind of wrap up a little bit,
Are you rushing us?
When we were talking about the type of dealers and the approach to dealers, it's basically say, if you want to do something a little bit different, and you want something that's within reach of your typical installer. You don't want to hire a bunch of Cisco certified guys to work in your staff. If you want just some services that are within the reach of your existing installers, we're making tools that will allow them to do basic network hardening at a pretty high level, as well as basic security and device monitoring, all in a really simple package to work with. And it's not just going to be one product. It's going to be several products that they can choose from, but then also a toolkit, a software toolkit that their installers can use to harden networks. And that hopefully will help that company basically make every system they install a reasonably hardened or reasonably secure network.
That's cool.
That's a good
Perfect.
message, right?
I like
Just
that. I
that
like that.
your existing guys can we can do a really reasonable job of securing these networks and layer in without having to hire new guys. Without having
Right,
to,
exactly.
And that plays to the point that I thought that there's a little bit of pride for those guys going, hey,
Right.
you could even make up a fake certification of the, and you're like, I'm ES certified.
That's right.
I'm EdgeSentry certified.
100%. I do see us at a certain point doing quite a bit of training. And it's just and you'll see the interface with 200 is really, really simple. It's one page for a switch, and you go through, you click the buttons for that switch, all the lights are green, you go on to the next switch.
Have you
really pretty
have
easy
you
to understand.
thought of,
I like the idea of training the technicians so that they understand what they're doing as well.
Yeah.
And if they ever had to go and tweak something in a particular switch, they would know how to do that. And the kind of interesting thing about this is that I'm building a massive collection of network switches. And so I can do how-to guides with screenshots from each switch if there's certain stuff that we have to train guys on what to do. But we really want, for all of our products, for there to be as little messing around the network as possible. We want to give them one interface, button clicks, and that's
Keep
it.
the
We don't want them to
simplicity.
have to go in and
Right.
enable stuff on different devices and do stuff like that. Because every time they do that, there's a chance it's going to get screwed up.
How would you envision the toggling of power to look on the interface? Like, would the port start like blinking orange and you click it and it does something, or what? How do we think that's going to look?
I'm still struggling with that a little bit. It's actually having it toggle the PoE power is actually pretty simple. That's not on its own. That's not hard to do. It's how I build it into the user interface. I haven't quite figured out yet.
Okay.
I don't want to promise you 100% that it'll be just click on a PoE port and it will pop up a little menu saying, hey, do you want to cycle the power on this port? It might be that, and that might be the easiest way to do it.
Right.
I just have to think through what that programming is going to look like, because some of these interfaces, when there's a 48 port switch, the amount of coding that goes into that is pretty massive. And I'm okay with that, but I just want to make sure I'm 100% sure what I'm doing before, because that part of the interface is partially written. It's not completely written, but the actual functionality of toggling the power is not difficult.
Okay.
Jeff, do you happen to have the presentation with those sample
Yep, I do.
images you can show?
I do.
Yeah,
I'll show
because
'em.
that might make it easier to understand what that product's going to do.
Yep. We'll do it. So.
It's also 2 minutes past 5, so we may be late. How are we supposed to connect to our next appointment?
That is a very good question. Is it 2 minutes past 5? Is it 2 o'clock here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez.
It is.
Wow. All right. That's a good question. Let me look. I didn't think it was anywhere close to that late.